So let me ask you, um, have you ever had any men that have experienced any type of fatigue, chronic fatigue, stress? How did you kind of approach that situation?
Yeah.
And did they know it? Because I know sometimes people don't know they're under stress, you know?
Yeah, and so, I know you deal with a lot of chronic fatigue and kind of fibromyalgia, and I know, it seems, that it's fibromyalgia is more commonly diagnosed in women than in
Hmm.
men, and that women may experience, more severe, different types of symptoms. I'd be interested to hear what you've, seen on that end. Um, I think yeah, men typically come in with a little bit of a different language, right? They might just say like, "Hey, I'm just feeling just like really burnt out, right? Like I
Hmm.
just, like I got nothing left in the tank. Like my battery is drained." And it's sort of this like hands up kind of F it moment of like I can't handle this anymore. Um, Probably a little bit less likely to use the more clinical, guys
Yeah.
typically aren't coming to me saying like, hey, I think I'm suffering from this chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm tired and I'm exhausted, and life is just it's too much for me to handle, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it is different. It does look different for men. For men, it might be, yeah, the fatigue. I mean, that's kind of like a common denominator, but more like maybe muscle pain or muscle aching, feeling it more, in their body, I would say. Women, there are several other symptoms, dealing with hormones and whatnot, things like that. And, just the general fatigue, of course. Brain fog, maybe, something
Mhm.
like that. But yeah, men, it looks a lot different. So like if somebody's dealing with a whole lot of stress, what would you suggest for them to do? How would they handle that?
Yeah, I mean, so stress management, whatever you want to call it, I hate the term stress reduction. Like stress is just part of life, right? Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
living, you're experiencing stress. It just means that there are things
Mm-hmm.
moving around and pushing
Mm-hmm.
in on you, right? Pushing on your mind body system. And so I think we need mind body approaches to handle that, right? So techniques like mindfulness and meditation, if it's not clear on my shirt, right? Something that I'm a very big proponent of. I've been a meditator. It's something I teach. I recognize that a seated kind of traditional meditation practice is certainly not for everyone, but I do think there's a wide variety of mindfulness techniques that can be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But even other things like yoga, like breath work. Um, I put these under this larger umbrella of kind of moments of renewal. I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the biggest things our society is missing and that has kind of been taken away from us is moments of renewal during our days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the average day is just like from the moment we get up, it's just go, 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 right? Especially if you have family, you're dealing with those responsibilities, you get the kids out of the house, whatever, you show up to work, it's just work, 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 meetings, 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 right? And then it's like it's not until you finally come home, like you've had dinner, you put everybody to sleep, and then you get like an hour to yourself, and even then it's just like kind of mindlessly, right, like watching some Netflix or something, and even that might be relaxing, but it might not be rejuvenating. And I like to draw a distinction between those two things, right? I see
Mm-hmm.
relaxation is important. It's sort of the important first step, but just being relaxed doesn't guarantee that you are going to be in a rejuvenative or renewal state of mind and body. I think you need to add in this extra element of a certain kind of emotional and physical response that puts you in this relaxation place where your body then can kind of shift out of that stress based kind of sympathetic nervous system overload lifestyle that we're all in. And I know you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
hormones and things, right? Into this parasympathetic rest, recovery, rejuvenate place. And there's a lot of ways to experience renewal. So that's something I work with on a lot of clients. And it doesn't have to be a lot, right? It can be a couple mindful breaths. It can be a moment outside, just looking at the trees and just kind of reconnecting to the non-human world. I saw
Mhm.
your cat run by. It can be a moment with a
Yeah.
pet, right? Like where you're just but it's I'll tell you what it's not, right? It's not another moment kind of scrolling on your phone. It's not another moment compulsively checking your inbox. It's not another moment looking at the news of the politics and getting all upset, right? Like those are not helping you renew,
Yeah.
and yet that's often what we fill so much of the space of our days with. So if you can just fill some of that white space in your days with these renewal movements, I find that actually really makes a big difference to help people just lower that baseline stress and kind of come back into a place where your body can handle it. I think our bodies are naturally incredibly resilient. So we just need to kind of
Mhm.
lessen the load to allow our body's natural healing mechanisms to come online. But the
Mhm.
problem is when we're underslept and bombarded by all of this stimulation all the time, we don't really let our bodies get into that healing state.
Yeah. Okay. So you made some great distinctions as far as slowing down and taking that time for yourself. Yeah. Very important, wouldn't you say? Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
and recognize
especially
like
for men. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean for men and for women, right? We
Mhm.
both, both genders face different challenges when it comes to slowing down and giving themselves permission to slow down,
Yeah.
which I think is a big thing. And I recognize, and there's like, a certain degree of privilege kind of baked into that, right? This is
Mhm.
the part of the kind of the wellness world that always bothers me in the ways in which it has often become, this a leisure activity for those who have the time and the money to do it, right? Where I
Mhm.
truly believe like no, like wellness is our birthright. It is available to everyone, and there are resources, right? Like there's so many resources, and most of them are just free, like the breath
Mhm.
and nature and sunshine and water and animals. Like these are incredible things. But yeah, it's just a matter of finding ways to try to plug them into your day,
Mhm.
recognizing that it's great to go on some sort of spa retreat wellness thing and have all day to slow down, but even if you can just do it for a couple of minutes, right, in your day, it really can help.
Yeah, that's important. I think, every day, people have so many responsibilities, whether it be family or work. So it's important to take that time because our society works so much, right? And they put such a heavy emphasis on work, going to work every day, and not as much on mindfulness and, maybe taking that time for ourselves. So it's very important. And I think a lot of people, going into, I guess, well, we're almost through with 2024. Hopefully, they can go into the years after that thinking, okay, I got to take that time for myself and just, even just recharge, and regroup and, do kind of like a self check-in even, you know, like, how am I feeling right now? You know, because I know, from experience, I definitely, I didn't know that I was under so much stress. I thought I was just going through it, just dealing with your regular day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality of I think most people are just going through it and dealing with the
Mhm.
reality of every day,
Yeah.
and don't really realize like how wound up their nervous systems have become, and how far away they've gotten from this place of rejuvenation, right? And I believe, was it Audre Lloyd who said, like, self-care is a revolutionary act, right? And so the hard part is, until our culture shifts to make this common, right? Until our society changes to support, right, rejuvenation and wellness in this deeper way,
Mhm.
then we're always going to be fighting this upstream battle. And that's what's so hard is that I think for people, it's like you both have to really commit to it and want it for yourself. So that personal initiative, and then finding a coach, like finding someone to help support you. So that way you can kind of both swim upstream together and not feel like you have to do this all on your own. I think that's a big issue I come into with a lot of guys. And, I'm so happy when they finally connect, because it's such in the, you know, kind of male psyche of like, I can do this all on my own, right? This sort of fierce independence, and if I can't do it on my own, it must mean I'm weak. And that's like the last thing that any guy wants to be seen as, is weak or incapable, right?